Hi, welcome back to the Cubase key commands and macros video. This is part 2, where I will focus on the macros specifically. However, before I get to that, it was pointed out to me in the comments of the last video that I didn't show how to edit the key commands. To do that, it's in the key command window, which is Edit, Key Commands. From here you have a list of hundreds, if not thousands, of different options you can edit and assign key commands to. Let's say we want to look for loop, project loop. We type in loop up here in the search bar, and then it's just a case of scrolling through until you find the right one. There are several that will likely come up in the search. So let's keep on going. No. Loop selection. There you go. So this one, L, is assigned as per the previous video, so that's fine. Let's keep it that way. But let's assign one to metronome setup. The way to do that is to highlight it here, and then over here to the right, type in key. You type in whichever key that you want. Let's do, doesn't matter, but let's do Shift P, type in the key, and then assign. Here we have a warning to say that Shift P is already assigned to the randomized pitch to scale. Do you want to reassign? In most times, no, but it's up to you. In this case, no. Let's do cancel. And let's do one that we know isn't assigned, Shift Y. And there we go. Shift Y is now assigned to metronome cycle. To delete, in case you don't want that, it's really just a case of clicking this bin here. Do you wish to remove? Yes. In terms of this menu, there are two sections or two halves. The top half is the key commands and the lower half is the macros. The macros are also contained up here in the top, because this is where you assign the key command. So for example, close all, I have assigned to home, whereas the bottom section is the macros themselves. So close all, it's a combination of these 6 elements, or 6 functions. So hide all automation, hide lanes, and then zoom again. That's just to get the right width on the tracks that I prefer. Then we select kick and bass. The reason for that is because it's the top or the first channel in the project. So I always want it reverting back to that channel and then entering full screen mode. So to build one, what you would do is you would do macro new, test 1, and then here you just go and add the key commands. So let's add this one, let's add this one, let's add this one, and let's add this one. Just completely random, so this, I have no idea what it will do, probably nothing, but you just add the functions from above. And then once you have it, you then go back to the macro window and then you assign a key to it. So in this case, again, we can do Shift Y, assign. So when I do Shift Y, this test 1 macro will run. It's possible to reorder these. So let's say toggle active, I want first. We do move up. So now when I run this macro, toggle active will trigger first. I want to delete this though because it was just a test. Just a case of hitting delete there. So let's get to the macros now. The macros are, as I said just then, a combination of several commands many of which will involve logical editors. The logical editor functions can be quite confusing because there are two, and they're both called logical editor. There is the project logical editor, which is under project logical editor. So here we have functions such as opening, closing tracks, selecting tracks, setting colors, showing and hiding different reference tracks, splitting zones, solo and muting different buses. So they're all general track overview functions. Whereas the other one is MIDI logical editor. So to get to that, it's under MIDI logical editor. And then here we have functions such as randomizing velocity and randomizing note length. As you would expect, functions relating to MIDI itself. The first section of this menu are default Cubase functions. My ones start from Groove Agent drums. So let's look at that one. To do that, I will create a Groove Agent instrument track. There we go. So now we have a note on every 16th. If I select just a kit at random, it will play just this kick every 16th. Quite boring, obviously. What I can do with the Groove Agent drum logical preset is if I do Shift G, which is the key command to activate that, it randomizes the note accordingly. So it starts at C1 always, and then in this case it goes up by 8 notes. We can do that again. The purpose of which it will create a randomized Groove Agent pattern every time. Now, obviously that sounds horrible because I just chose the first Groove Agent kit in there. Let's choose something a little bit more appropriate. Let's go here. And let's play that back again. So as you saw, every time I hit Shift G, it would randomize the notes, resulting in a different Groove Agent percussion pattern. So let's look at the MIDI logical preset. What this is doing is taking a note, and then it is applying a random value between 36 and 43. 36 will most likely always stay constant because that is where Groove Agent starts the drums typically. So the first one here is C1 and 36 corresponds to note C1. Whereas the upper value is the upper limit of what is going to be triggered here. So if I play this back now, you will see only the first 2 rows will be played back or triggered. Let's watch. However, we want some more variation in this, so the way to do that is to increase this. Let's go to 60, for example, and apply. you'll notice the notes changed, so they increased, and you will also notice these different drum pads light up as it expands the range. So what I would do is I would typically define the range for the drums that I'm interested in. I don't really usually have more than 16. That just makes it too much, especially when there's only really 16 notes in the bar. So I would generally consolidate them into the one page here and then just choose this accordingly. But it does give the flexibility when you first open a Groove Agent kit that there may be drums up here in the higher ranges that sound good. So once you can hear them, you can then move them back into the same page. So to further build on this, it's quite busy at the moment. It's playing back every 16th. So I would look to reduce that. There are a couple of ways to do it. One default Cubase way is to go to the MIDI inserts and you can choose density here. And then by selecting a percentage, it only allows that percentage of notes to play. So if we go down to 50, only 50% of those drum hits will play. So it's getting much more what we expect to not clutter the mix. But the only issue with that is that it's random. It's never consistent every time we play that loop back. So most people would go through and record out 16 bars of it and then choose the 2 bars that they prefer. I find that really quite cumbersome. Instead, I have a random mutes function set up. That is a macro. If we go to the macro section again, go to the macros, random mutes. So here we would select all events, randomize the velocity, and then anything that's less than 40, it would mute. Here, this is assigned to a key command M, random mutes Shift M. So let's play this back again, and I will do Shift M, and you will hear that this pattern changes. So it's always consistent now. Now that I've done that random muting and I found a pattern that I liked, that will always stay consistent. If we go back into the MIDI logical editor, Groove Agent we just went through, length is typically to revert back to a fixed 1/16th length. So if we select that now, and if we go to the Groove Agent again, I will intentionally shorten these. And if I apply this now, they always go back to 1/16th. The next 3 are ones that I've set up that didn't really work, so I need to delete those, so ignore them for now. Randomize length randomizes the length of the MIDI note. The best way to show that would be on a lead. So if I scroll to a lead line over here, say, if we just play back this section, and while playing back, I will click on that preset. Randomize length. So let's play back, and I will hit this apply button. So as you can see, it's changing the note length. Now the previous example that I gave was the returning back to 16ths. That's where this one comes in handy. So if I go back to length 1/16th, apply, it's back to 1/16th. So I can start fresh, essentially. The next one, pitch to scale. It randomizes the notes according to a scale. So here is the range. I have from D3 to G3 in this example, and it's set to D natural minor. We can go to whatever scale you want in here. So this one is D Phrygian. If I apply, there we go. These notes have randomized within that scale. Randomized velocity is essentially the same as randomized length, except it does what you'd expect. Instead of randomizing the notes, it randomizes the velocity. So let's play this back again, and you will hear the velocity impact on the filter. I should note that velocity in this case I have assigned to filter within the synth. So this is causing the controlled random automation on the filter. At the moment, because the notes are all 1/16th, it does sound a bit of a mess or one consistent note. The best way to highlight the function is the next one, which is the one I use every single day, randomize velocity and length. So that is a combination of the above two that we mentioned. In this case, as you'd expect, it randomizes both. So let's apply, and we'll play this back, and at the same time you'll hear this lead change and result in quite a good groove every time. So I would typically hit this one constantly until I get a groove that worked, and then I know that it's locked in. It's not a case of having to continuously record out bits that I like and then go back and cherry pick the good bits. It's fixed. It could be though that when playing it back it's just a bit too busy, so similar to the Groove Agent drums, what I can do is randomize the mutes. So let's play this back, and I can do Shift M, and it will randomize the notes that are being played, or randomize the density of the notes. So let's play this back. So in terms of process, I would randomize the velocity, note length all at once in the one key command, and then I would do randomization of mutes to get the final element to the groove. If we look further, what other options we have? Randomize velocity and length and pitch. That's a combination of the ones we've been through previously. It does as you'd expect. It will randomize these notes to a fixed velocity. We make this 127 as a maximum. You can change this however you want for the depth that you intend. I typically keep it at 127. And then note length, I keep to full length as well. And then the notes, so G0 to G2, in this case, transposed to G Phrygian. So apply, and there you go. That's randomized to that scale. And I can keep on going, hitting apply until I find a groove that I like. However, by this stage you can see that it's a bit messy, everything all over the place, so I might want to get a bit of normality back to it. So in that case, I have reset randomization. Here it is returning the velocity back to 100, the note length back to 1/16, and the note back as well. So apply, there we go. All back to how it was, and then I can just continue as I was. I can do it all again. The next three are, again, ones I was experimenting with that didn't really work. They were meant to be for the randomized mutes, but I worked out a better way to do that. So again, these three need to be deleted. So to recap, the ones I use regularly and the ones I would encourage you to set up are Groove Agent drums. Obviously, you can call that however you want. It applies to any VST that you load. It's just that it works best for me on Groove Agent or any drum synth for that matter. Length 1/16, because it's always convenient to revert back to 16ths in case you get it into a bit of a mess. Velocity and length I use regularly as well. Do keep in mind you need to assign a parameter to velocity within your synth, otherwise it'll just do velocity in the synth. Typically I do filter or FM table, so then you get that constant variation throughout the bar. And then the resets, it's always handy to go back to a default state in case you get a bit of a mess, which is similar to length 16, just a different way of doing that. So then once you have created the macros, you can simply copy them from a freeze on this video, should you wish, is to then assign them to a key command. So back into the key command window, you need to find them under logical preset or logical editor here. The ones we just went through are under logical preset. So the ones we just discussed, which you're now familiar with, randomize velocity. I have two keys here. I used to use Shift V, but now it's just V, so I can get rid of that now. Reset pitch, Control Alt P. So yeah, so you find them under here, and then you assign the key the same way I did at the start. It might be that you need to combine these into a macro. One I didn't mention actually, seeing this now, is the full 16th, which is quite a useful one. Let's go and show you this one. So in 99 out of 100 Psytrance tracks, you want at some point to be fixed 16ths. So in that case, rather than duplicating like this, which admittedly doesn't take too much time, but still, why waste time if you don't need to? Just enter one note, Shift S, and it will duplicate 15 times, getting you the full 16th. So in terms of workflow, I would enter one note, Shift S to duplicate that, And then I would do Shift R to randomize. So within literally 2 keystrokes, I have basically a lead written. Or a lead tentatively sketched out, I should say. So I think that's it for this video. As I said at the start, going into every one of these in detail would be quite beyond the scope of this video. However, if there are any in particular that you are specifically interested in, I'm happy to do a separate video just on those to show you exactly how they are created. Let me know which ones you want to see, and I will dedicate some time specifically to those. Thank you. Bye.